You're watching South Asia Newsline, and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 13th of November. India terms Delhi blast a terror attack, orders swift probe. Jaishankar urges global unity on energy, maritime security at G7. And Bangladesh to hold referendum on July Charter alongside elections, says Yunus. And now for all the details, India's Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday, said that the November 10 Delhi blast was a heinous terror incident perpetrated by anti-national forces. India's Information and Broadcasting Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw, while briefing the media on cabinet decisions, read the resolution which said the cabinet unequivocally condemns this dastardly and cowardly act that has led to the loss of innocent lives. The National Investigation Agency is carrying out investigations into the case.
The Cabinet expressed its profound grief over the loss of lives in the terrorist incident involving a car explosion near the Red Fort in Delhi on the evening of 10th November 2025. The Cabinet directs that the investigation into the incident be pursued with the utmost urgency and professionalism so that the perpetrators, their collaborators, and their sponsors are identified and brought to justice without delay. The situation continues to be closely monitored at the highest levels of the government.
Meanwhile, responding to a media query on India's declaration of the Delhi blast as a terror incident, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio described the explosion as clearly a terrorist attack. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Secretary Rubio met on the sidelines of the G7 Foreign Ministers meet in Niagara, Canada, where he expressed condolences for the life lost in the blast. And speaking at the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting outreach sessions, India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar has called for stronger global cooperation to ensure energy security, resilience in critical mineral supply chains, and maritime safety. Jaishankar underlined India's readiness to work constructively with international partners to address shared global challenges. In his remarks, Jaishankar noted that global markets remain unpredictable and constrained and urged nations to work collectively to secure reliable access to energy and critical minerals essential for sustainable growth. Earlier, Jaishankar attended another G7 outreach session on maritime security and prosperity, where he outlined India's vision through the Mahasagar outlook and its growing role as a first responder in the Indo-Pacific region. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar joined world leaders at the G7 Foreign Ministers outreach sessions, focusing on energy security, critical minerals and maritime prosperity. India participated in the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting as an invited partner alongside countries such as Brazil, Australia and South Korea. Pakistan's parliament has passed the controversial 27th Constitutional Amendment Bill, which grants lifetime legal immunity to the army chief while expanding his powers and curbing those of the Supreme Court, a move the opposition said has sunk the ship of democracy in the country. The bill has now been sent back to the Senate for reconsideration of minor amendments, after which it will move to President Asif Ali Zardari for assent. Under the amendment, Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff will also hold the title of Chief of Defence Forces, formally making the position the head of Pakistan's Army, Navy and Air Force. It also retains honorary ranks such as Field Marshal, Marshal of the Air Force and Admiral of the Fleet as permanent titles. The change also places General Asim Munir at the center of Pakistan's defence structure, giving him broader constitutional recognition and influence than any of his predecessors. Responding to remarks by Afghanistan's Taliban Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs, Mullah Baradar, who urged Afghanistan traders to explore alternative trade routes instead of relying on Pakistan, Defence Minister Khawaja Asif on Wednesday said the move would actually benefit Pakistan. Speaking to Geo News, Asif said, "For us, it will have no impact. In fact, it will be a relief because much of the cargo booked for Karachi port from Afghanistan eventually ends up in Pakistani markets." He further described the development as a blessing in disguise, adding that Pakistan would only gain, not lose, from Afghanistan seeking alternate routes. Relations between Islamabad and the Kabul have reached their lowest point since the Taliban seized power 4 years ago. Meanwhile, Chief Adviser of the interim government of Bangladesh, Muhammad Yunus, in his address to the nation on Thursday, said that Bangladesh will hold a national referendum on implementing its July Charter for the state reform, which was drafted after last year's deadly student-led uprising. He also reiterated that parliamentary elections will be held in the first half of February and that they would be free and fair. The July National Charter, drafted after last year's deadly student-led uprising, was backed by the majority of political parties on October 17 this year. It outlines a framework for constitutional and structural reforms aimed at strengthening democracy, accountability and governance in the country. And Afghanistan is facing its worst humanitarian and economic crisis since the Taliban took power in 2021. According to a new report by the United Nations Development Programme, more than 4.5 million Afghans have returned home since 2023, most from Iran and Pakistan, swelling the population by about 10%. The report warns that nearly 9 in 10 Afghan households are struggling to survive, forced to skip meals, sell belongings or take on debt. Natural disasters from earthquakes and floods to drought have wiped out nearly 8,000 homes, while public services are stretched beyond their limits. The UNDP survey of 48,000 households paints a grim picture. More than half of returnees are skipping medical care just to afford food, and nearly half rely on unsafe water resources. Women are bearing the brunt of the crisis. Female participation in the labour force has fallen to just 6%, among the lowest in the world. The UNDP is urging the Taliban authorities to allocate more resources to support returnees. The United Nations says aid to Afghanistan has sharply declined since 2021. Without urgent support, it warns overlapping crises of poverty, exclusion and migration will only deepen. And at a meeting held at the office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, Nepal's interim Prime Minister Sushila Karki met with acting Chief Election Commissioner Ram Prasad Bhandari and other senior Election Commission officials to assess the status of election preparations. Commission officials informed the interim Prime Minister that more than 60% of the preparatory work has been completed and the Commission remains on track to hold the election on March 5. To meet the growing demand for voter registration, the Commission has extended its working hours to operate in 2 shifts from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., increased staff and ensured real-time troubleshooting of its online system. Starting Thursday, the Election Commission will begin integrating voter data from national ID records. The draft code of conduct has been circulated to political parties for feedback, and the final election schedule will be published soon. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.